Present an easy to remember, very simple diet. I know there's a lot of different diet fads out there. Actually, the only diet I ever used to know was to work out like crazy, go to the gym for 3 hours a day, and kill it. And sometimes you run out of time to do all that stuff. And the other thing is, well, the other thing is with diets. Sometimes they're like saying, "Well, you got to remember this many calories. Don't eat this kind of food. Don't do this. Don't do that." And there's so many different things people tell you, right? Actually, this is something I think is going to be really cool because it's so easy to remember. It doesn't have anything to do with carbs, fats, proteins, particular types of foods. Actually, it really has to do with mini fasting. They found this study out with mice, our favorite little critters, right? At least according to the cats, anyway. They always do the mouse study, but sometimes the mouse studies are the best things to do because it's like it takes too long to check it with the humans. But what they did was they restricted their time when they eat. In other words, you got a 24-hour day. They tried an 8-hour interval is the only time you're allowed to eat. They tried a 10-hour interval and they tried 12-hour interval, and that 12-hour interval was the max. It did not matter if they gave him a high carbohydrate diet, a high fat diet, high protein, or whatever the hell kind of diet it was. It was as long as they restricted the eating to 12 hours or less during the time frame of a 24-hour period that the mice maintained regular weight or they went down to the regular weight. And I said, wow, that's pretty freaking simple. Because, when you're really busy, you're like, how the hell are you going to remember all this crap, I mean, people try to get, like, special lean cuisine or some garbage, and they do this and they do that. And there's 50 million different things people tell you. Well, actually, it's kind of simple. It's mini fasting. But it actually flies in the face to what doctors tell you in some ways, or maybe nutritionists, because they'll tell you, yeah, you have to eat a good breakfast. So, like, in other words, if, say, you have something at midnight, you want to make sure that you have your lunch at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or later, and you don't have anything in the morning at all. That's what this diet actually it would be. It's mini fasting. So you restrict. So it's not too crazy where like you're not getting any calories during the day, but it's almost like it forces your body to go into fat burning mode for a period of time. And I guess, I don't know, maybe it's, it's one of those things I noticed, I read a lot about. Actually, when I put my mind to it, I could lose weight like crazy. And I don't even, tell you the truth, personally about me, I don't look at a scale because you know what happens to me? I go into competitive mode. You won't believe it from looking at me right now, but I go into competitive mode and I lose too much weight. I don't look at a scale. But I figure this is a good way to kind of regulate the weight without me thinking about, how much I weigh, what I'm eating, or whatever the hell it is. Like, I try to always eat good foods, but it's like just restricting the time is easy to remember. Like, I already know, like, to eat the fishes, the proteins, and all that kind of stuff, and, sometimes I'll have carbohydrates or whatever. But a lot of times what I used to do, was like I'd eat before I'd work out, because when I worked out for 3 hours, what I ate was burned up in the first hour, and the next 2 hours was like, when I was doing that, I was going into, I guess it was from January 2007 to August 2011. I literally worked out intensely 365 days a week, 3 hours a day, plus manual labor. It was overkill, man. Ribs showing, man. Actually, it was semi-anorexic back then. That was a few years ago or so. What was that, about 4 years ago? But the thing is, I'm interested in getting down, but I said, wow, this is probably one of the better deals, because when they tried this with the mice, they gave them different diets. They gave them like a real high-fat diet, a real high-carbohydrate diet. They gave them a mixed diet with proteins. They gave them it didn't matter. If they left the food there 24 hours a day, the mice would get fatter. Didn't matter what the hell the diet was. If they restricted them to a 12-hour window per day or less, it didn't even matter if it was a high fat, high carbohydrate diet. They still dropped weight. It's mini fasting. And it's kind of cool because it's easy to remember. The one thing I freaking hate about some of this stuff is I remember it was easy for me to just go to the gym, take my laptop and have like the wireless on the internet, and I'd be like looking stuff up and doing things and, trying to look up what I needed to look up for like work when I was at the internet, when I was out at the gym on the internet. And so it wasn't a waste of 3 hours. I'd be trying to work while I was actually working out. I'd use the elliptical machine for 3 hours a day. But it's like, it's not something you can freaking do forever. I did it for like 3.5 years straight. But it's like, it's not really the ultimate solution. And what I'm looking at, I says, wow, this is probably the ultimate solution. About trying to maybe starve yourself for a day once in a while, but it's real easy to remember. Just make sure it's under 12 hours. So in other words, if you're somebody, if you say you eat the breakfast and you have your lunch and you have your dinner, don't ever have any late night snacks. Or late night, I don't know what you want to call it snacks. What I'll do is like late night I'll make, organic soup or fish. That's what I usually do. So, but it's real easy for me not to freaking eat anything in the morning until late in the afternoon. And, so I'm trying this out. I says, well, what the hell? Actually, I've been too busy that I haven't been working out last week or so because I've been physically doing so much stuff on cars. I was like, holy smokes, I'm tired, man. I said, I can't even work out. I says, picking up this, running over there, going under the car, banging on this, and I was like, God, I got enough exercise already, man. So I was thinking, how the hell am I going to do this if I'm not have the energy to work out on the machines and stuff? Well, just restrict your food intake to less than the 12-hour period during the day. That's simple as all hell. And if you work in an office or whatever the hell it is, or whatever, wherever you are, that's easy to remember. Now the thing is, with humans, they're not mice, obviously. They might be thinking, wow, I'm starved. Let me just, as long as it's under 12 hours, I'm going to do 10 hours, and you're eating like tons of food. It ain't going to work. But somehow the mice were dumb enough not to eat too much during the time that they were allowed to eat. It's like a human. I guess maybe they'll go to the, I guess you could screw it up anyway. But it probably does work pretty well because it's what it is mini fasting. It's forcing your body to burn up fat during every day a little bit because there's at least a 12-hour window where you're not eating anything. In other words, your sleep time counts too. So, it's like, if you had something to eat at 9 o'clock at night, you want to make sure you don't have something to eat till at least, say, 10 o'clock in the morning. And, the smaller that window you make that window a little bit smaller, it'll work. It should work. And also combine it with, I would also say this because I realize that carbohydrate food, I would not, if you're going to do this, don't box of donuts or something like that, or pastries or something, and say, oh, I can eat these now. It won't work because what you really got to do, also you got to remember to, I would add this, even though this wasn't in the study, you want to eat foods that will give you a longer term energy, like higher protein foods, or it's going to have some carbohydrates, but you don't want to have pure carbohydrates because what happens is you have good energy for maybe 10 minutes and then you slow down once you overload. But mini fasting every day and restricting your food intake to less than 12 hours a day, that's a simple thing to remember, and it may work for everybody. I think it would help. They shown on mice it worked great. So all the mice in America, if they know if they're listening to this, they can whatever. Sometimes you can't freaking take a study from the mouse and apply it to the American, human, because the humans know, hey, I didn't eat all day. I want to eat really gorge, They might not work, but it's just that sometimes, you know, I'm sure people experience this sometimes when you're really busy, you forget to eat. And if you, you know, if you, once you get past the plateau, I know like when I was like going extreme the other way, you know, dropping like with ribs and shit, you know, you get ribs showing and stuff. Not extreme bad, but I had ribs showing. What I would do was, once you get it to a certain point, you actually forget about food. And that is probably why this works, because once you get past that 12 hours without food, you might go 14 hours or 16 hours without food and forget about it. And if you're anorexic, don't watch this video. Don't watch this video. I'm telling you something bad, man. Actually, I think I'm going to put something out about some of that stuff because, I don't know, maybe an alternative tip on that. I might tell you something about that because, but anyway, I think this is a great tip because it's so simple to remember. And it's not, and you know, the other deal is, I just got to tell you a little bit more about this. Different blood types, different body types, don't react the same way with different types of food. Like there's A blood type, there's a B blood type, there's a AB blood type. Some blood types are more specific to different types of food. That's another subject. And that is why, and actually each individual has their different things where some foods are better for different individuals that just will react to them different. Maybe it's the bioflora that they have in their body, that why it's that way, I don't know. But that's why there's so many different diets that sometimes they work for some people really great and sometimes they don't work at all for other people. But this is a good one because it's like you don't even have to think about dieting. You don't have to think about anything. It's just like make sure there's at least a 12-hour window where you don't have something to eat during the day. And that should bring you down to your ideal weight. It's called mini fasting, basically. But you're not fasting a whole day. You know, some people recommend fasting a day, 2 days, 3 days. You're not even fasting 24 hours. You're only fasting, you know, 12 to 16 hours. That's all. That's not that bad. Not bad at all. So I figured I'd pass this on, and I like it because it's so easy to do. And I'm too busy to try to remember all this other stuff, and I remember the only way I really lost weight was to work out like a fiend. And sometimes I don't have time to do all that stuff, even though I was getting creative with taking my laptop to the gym and having my, you know, wireless internet access and all this other garbage and trying to work while I was working out. And you know, you can't do that all the time. Not forever. So this is probably one of those forever tips. And figured I'd pass it on. Because weight management actually is a major problem in the United States. Especially in Mississippi and Missouri and Arkansas and a place like that down south where the southern fried food is. Whatever. Anyway, so I think it's easy to remember though. Easy. Alright, so hot tip.